Hey guys, thanks for joining me for this 19th episode of Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. Special guests for this episode include sports handicapper and host of the sports betting podcast on the Believe Podcast Network, Brandon Lang. We'll also visit with former member on the Bachelor and Bachelorette series, Ben Higgins, got a brand new book that we'll be talking about. Also, there's a new series on CBS All Access called Coyote. We'll be visiting with actor Michael Chiklis. We'll also visit with director Ric Roman Waugh. The movie Greenland will be available on DVD, Blu-ray, and video on demand coming up on February 9th. And our final guest will be Season 17 winner of The Voice, Jake Hoot. Got a brand new single to talk about, I Would Have Loved You, with Kelly Clarkson. Again, if you would, please take the time to subscribe, drop a like, comment, leave some feedback, and share with your friends. Every week, we like to visit with our good friend Brandon Lang, the host of the sports betting podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. And Brandon, just a small game coming up this weekend, right?
Yeah, it's kind of defined my career. You know, each year it just intensifies. You know, I was at Radio Row in Tampa yesterday, pretty dead, pretty quiet, probably at 20% capacity than what I'm used to. I had done Radio Row 5 years in a row. This was my sixth. And somebody asked me down there yesterday, do you have a formula? I mean, you've hit 6 in a row. You're 25-3 over the course of your career. And I'm like, sort of. I just find what I think is the key matchup. And then I answer the question, who do I think is going to do it better? And then that's how I get on the right side of the game. And, I've had to get lucky. You know, I'm a realist. I know I got pretty lucky with having New England over Seattle and getting the Malcolm Butler interception. And then Atlanta in New England down 28-3, got lucky with the comeback there. But other than that, Denver over Carolina, Cam Newton versus Denver's defense, pretty easy there. The Eagles plus the points over the Patriots, worst defense Belichick brought to a Super Bowl. Can't trust the Patriots laying more than a field goal. Eagles won the game outright. Came back with New England over the Rams, Jared Goff versus Belichick. Came back with last year, Mahomes versus Garoppolo. So this one here, though, is a tough one. You know, two great quarterbacks, two really good defenses that are playing well. The one thing that's going to come down to, and you answer this question, if you think the banged up offensive line for the Chiefs can protect against Tampa Bay's pass rush, well, then you use Kansas City. If you think the defensive line of Tampa Bay is going to get there, then you play Tampa Bay. And that's it. That's the whole key to the game, because it's not going to matter what Brady does. It's not. You know, Tom Brady's played 9 Super Bowls. This is his 10th. In those 9 Super Bowls, he's never scored a touchdown in the first quarter. In those 9 Super Bowls, they've got 1 field goal in the first quarter. Tom Brady has never played a complete Super Bowl where he's been on fire the entire game, with the exception of the Philadelphia Super Bowl, where he threw for over 500 yards and lost. He hasn't played well over the course of an entire game. He was very bad against the Rams. He was bad for 3 quarters against Atlanta. And he was bad until the fourth quarter of the Seattle Super Bowl. So it's not about Brady. It's about Mahomes and whether he has time to throw. Because if he does, he's going to shred that secondary. If he doesn't, Kansas City's going to lose the game outright. And that's where I'm at on this Thursday.
And Brandon, how can you quantify the amount of prop bets and how much extra does that bring into the sports betting world as the Super Bowl approaches?
Oh, a ton. That's why you have what color is the Gatorade going to be thrown on Andy Reid? Last year it was orange. Do they come back and throw orange on him again? People like to bet the coin toss, get the juices flowing, heads or tails, -110, even money. Who's going to be shown first, Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady during the national anthem? People love these prop bets. I say the same thing every year. You can't really bet a lot of money. Most casinos will cap the prop bets at 500. Some will let you bet as much as 100, but that's it. Nobody lets you come in there firing 10 grand on prop bets. that's never going to happen. So they cap it off on what you can bet. But again, it's action. You want to have action on as many things as possible. How many dog commercials will there be? The over-under was 4.5. So that right there puts it in context of just how much fun prop bets are.
Now, the week leading up to Super Bowl for you, Brandon, I mean, how is this week different from any other week of the year for you?
Just the pressure of hitting the game, because people who don't normally bet all year long come for my Super Bowl pick. I see it with the sales. I see how many people are buying the pick. I got to release the game here in about 4 hours. I still don't know who I'm going to use. It's just people will come out of the woodworks for this. I mean, like I said, I'm probably the only person in the entire planet Earth that's hit the last 6 Super Bowls. I'm pretty confident of that. It's because I've had to be lucky and I've had to just dodge minefields, if you will, to hit the last 6. So to be going for 7 in a row and then I'm 25-3 with the 28 I've been asked to pick with the 2 ties. St. Louis and Tennessee was a 7-point spread. It fell on 7. New England, Green Bay was a 14-point spread. It fell on 14. But other than that, 25-3 is 25-3, 6 in a row, 6 in a row. The pressure to hit the game every year is always the same. And, it's just formulating, knock on wood. I know this. I can't be around my wife. The last time I watched the Super Bowl with my wife was Denver-Seattle, and I lost. So that's why I get out of town. So I'm in Florida. I'm going to play some golf, get away from the wife, and hopefully my brain functions the way it always does, and I release the right side of the game, and things go the way I see it.
That's right. Well, Brandon, if folks want more information, obviously the Sports Betting Podcast, when's the new episode coming?
It's up there now. We did it yesterday, and it's good stuff. Like I said, rated R, under 18, must be accompanied by parent or guardian. So make sure we put that disclaimer in there.
That's right. And of course, definitely want to make sure and mention the website, BrandonLane.com.
That's it. Number 7 in a row, 26-3. It'll be up in about 2 hours. So knock on wood. Let's hope God smiles on me again.
There you go. Well, Brandon, always good to visit with you, man. Survive the rest of Super Bowl week, and we look forward to talking to you real soon.
Got it. Feel better, buddy. Feel better.
Thanks to our sponsor for today's episode, Smiley's Breezy Vapes, 313 Falcon Road here in Altus. They've got red basket specials all the time, got a great selection of disposables, the largest selection of disposable flavors in Southwest Oklahoma, plus a great selection of new hardware. They've got full mod sets, you name it. Give them a call, 580-471-VAPE. Our next guest, you remember him from his time on The Bachelor, Ben Higgins. Got a brand new book we'll be talking about. First off, Ben, thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, thank you for having me. This is a big deal, and I'm just thankful that you have me on.
Now, obviously, folks know you from the Bachelor Bachelorette franchise, and I think that kind of leads to the story in the book. And Ben, how did the book come to fruition? And was it something that you saw early on, or was it maybe somebody else that inspired that for you?
Well, kind of a mixture of all that. So after the show, I was going through a pretty hard time mentally. I wasn't processing things well. I was reacting negatively to things. I felt very disconnected, very isolated. And so I started journaling. And as I journaled, I recognized some themes. And so I started telling my friends and my family and some other people about these themes. And the more and more I talked about some of the things that were most haunting me, I realized that more and more people that I talked to felt the same way. Maybe they just weren't talking about it. So then I got the opportunity to write a book, and it was exactly what I wanted to write about. I wanted to write a book that could take my platform that I've been given the opportunity to write a book and use it for something I believe mattered. And I can't think of something that matters any more than helping people in this world feel less alone, feel less disconnected, less misunderstood. And that's what Alone in Plain Sight is all about. It's a book that hopefully allows the reader to feel like they're seen, loved, known, and not isolated in this world.
And Ben, even you would think that because of social media that folks would always feel connected, but do you think that breeds a false sense of connection in some folks?
Well, I think it does. I think social media can be really, really good when done well. But I think what it often does is it highlights our victories and our successes in life. And those things are awesome. But what really, I think, connects us is our shared pains, vulnerability, and insecurity. And so that thing is not being highlighted on social media. So what we end up doing is we see these people through the lens of what they want to show. But yet, even when we want to show these things, like for me, for example, I only post stuff that I think will get a good reaction. Well, what about all the things that are going on in my life that I know won't get a good reaction? I want to share that stuff. And so, yes, I think we're disconnected because we just believe that everybody else is living in this fairy tale while we're struggling emotionally, spiritually, and also romantically with others.
Now, Ben, for you, how hard was it is it hard for you to be transparent, or is that something that has become a little easier for you over time?
It's hard, quite honestly, still, mostly with the perspective of the feedback. It opens you up, especially knowing, the world I live in. It's not uncommon to get a lot of criticism. And criticism for things that really matter, and criticism for things that are very important to me. This isn't just your normal criticism that somebody gets in life from being on the show. And so that's tough. However, I do think now it's became easier for me because I've seen that the more vulnerable I become, the more transparent I become, the more other people connect with that. And I guess on the short time that I have on this earth, I want to try to be somebody that lives a life connecting others and connecting others with myself. And so I believe it's almost my mission or my purpose. And so that makes it easier.
And for you to help with share faith and hope with others, I know that you've got so many other ventures that you've got going on as well. And how does it all come together? I know, don't you have them all placed? Isn't it all kind of in one general vicinity? Folks can find all the information as well.
Yeah, so definitely. So, all the stuff that I have going on has been built around the idea of people. And so, like with Gen Earth International, which is my full-time job, which is a company we created that donates 100% of our profits to organizations that are fighting human-facing injustice. They're all focused on people, with the restaurants, with the podcast, with the companies, with this book. You can go to generouscoffee.com and find a lot of this info. Or you can just go to my Instagram and social media and find a lot as well. But yeah, I think the common theme through it all is that it's people focused, and I just because I like people, I love people.
And I know that with people seeing you on the screen, they think that they know you, but they really don't truly know you. And is that now your mission to set that and make a difference in other people's lives one day at a time?
Yeah, I've seen it on a heightened level. Like, people watch me on the show and they think they know me. But I know a lot of people in this world haven't gone on a television show. And so what I would like to do with that is to try to create a book and a story that goes beyond the television show and talks about common themes that are a part of all of our lives. And also kind of share the message that fame is fleeting. It's not fulfilling. It's not the thing to pursue. It's a great thing while you have it, and it can bring a lot of great opportunities. But it is not a lifelong pursuit. It is not something that your legacy should be built on, is trying to be relevant. And so, yes, I've got to live in a place where a lot of people think they know me, but I don't know if they ever did, and that's why I wrote this book.
And Ben, before I let you go, one last question: What did you learn in 2021 that you are taking into the new year and improving upon?
Slow down. I learned in 2020 to spend time with friends and family and with strangers and just with people, investing in people. That this doesn't have to be a race to the finish. This can actually be a really terrific contemplative journey where we just learn to love people well.
That's right. And Ben, if folks want to keep up with more information about the book, Alone in Plain Sight, available now, plus any of your social media, where's the best place?
Higgins.ben on Instagram is probably the best place with the most resources right now available to finding out info.
All right. Well, Ben, it has been great to visit with you this morning. I always appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your week, my friend.
Hey, you too. Thanks for having me today.
Got a new series on CBS All Access called Coyote with Michael Chiklis this morning. And first off, Michael, how is the series starting off?
We were supposed to do 10 episodes, and we ended up only being able to finish 6 because they pulled the plug because of the pandemic. And I can't wait to get back down to the border to keep shooting this thing because it's extraordinary. It's been an amazing experience.
And Michael, if folks have not seen the trailers, the previews, or the first episodes of Coyote, tell us, let our listeners know a little bit. I love the premise of the story. I'd love to share that with our listeners.
Yeah, well, the jumping off point of the story is I play Ben Clemens, a 32-year veteran Border Patrol agent on his last day of work. And through an extraordinary set of circumstances, he's forced into becoming a coyote. And that's the jumping off point of the series. It's a very exciting way to jump off, obviously. But what I loved about this, when I read it and when I talked to my partner in it, Michelle McLaren, who's one of the great directors in the industry, she directed most of Breaking Bad and, most of the, a lot of just incredible episodes of the best television you've ever seen. And she and I have been friends for many years, and we wanted to do something together. And when she told me about this, of course, when I heard Border, I was like, oh, boy. Well, I got nervous because, I was worried that it was going to get, super political. And it isn't. It's a very human, real, gritty, on-the-ground look at thematically what's happening all over the world, which is these cultural collisions that are happening at borders all over the world. And we wanted to take a deep dive into that. And it's proven to be an incredible experience, very eye-opening, just great storytelling. It's beautifully shot. I can't wait for people to see this, man. And they're seeing it. And the biggest complaint so far has been 6, that's it, because they've been seeing them up in days. And, I keep on saying to people, I'm sorry, hang in there. Well, just watch the first 6. It's basically, that's like 3 feature films, 6 hours of movies, But, we're hoping to come back with more soon. But it's just, it's an odyssey, it's not walking a mile in another person's shoes. It's walking 100 miles in another person's shoes. You really get to delve into all the questions surrounding the border from everyone's point of view. And we spend time with Border Patrol agents, Homeland Security folks, then over, of course, on the Mexican side, talking about the federales. It was just some fascinating insights and getting to know people. And we shot the whole thing in Baja, California, which was beautiful and, very surprising. I just didn't know how big it was. Baja is like a massive peninsula, almost the size of Japan. And, we were out in the Sonoran Desert, 100 miles from anything. And it was just, you ever been out in the middle of the ocean? Well, you're from Oklahoma, probably not. Well, you're probably in the desert. Well, when you're out in the desert and it's so vast that it feels claustrophobic because you're so far away from anything that you almost feel like, oh my God, I'm alone out here. This is crazy. We had just an incredible experience shooting this thing. It's just like nothing you've ever seen on television. It's just very different.
And I know that you mentioned you were afraid of the politicization of everything, and for you, one of the things I liked in reading some of the bio and everything was taking black. Everybody wants to see things in black and white, but everything's not in black and white. And I think that's something great to share in this series as well.
Absolutely. Everything right now, because of the politicization of everything, people are looking at things as either or. You're for or against. And that's just not life. Life is filled with different shades of gray and different nuances, two things can be true at the same time. And that's what we got to get back to, is being, grown-ups and talking about things in all the nuance has been taken out of our political discourse, and that's crazy. And one of the great things about great drama or great, film and television is that you can explore all of those questions and all of those things without the political craziness. You can just, really look at the real of the situation. And Michelle and I were very, very, adamant about that. We went, again, I rode with the Border Patrol guys, talked about their life, about the way they perceive things, about even about the way the politicization of the border has affected their lives, about the way they perceive it. Because people get thrust into these situations and they didn't create it. They're just trying to do their gig. They're trying to do their job. You know what I mean? So we took it from the ground level. Because we're not interested. If I wanted to be a politician, I'd do that, but I'd rather eat glass, so, frankly.
This year has been unlike anything any of us have ever dealt with. And you've spent some time in the Hollywood realm for so long. How much has things changed on the outlook for 2021 now?
In terms of what? I mean, there's just so many things right now.
What's the overall? I guess mental. What is the mental toll that it's taken on you as an entertainer?
Well, again, because everyone's trying to paint people with huge brushstrokes, like you hear these things like Hollywood elites, And I'd like to know who those people are, because all I know is that 99% of the people who are out here making movies and television are people who grew up somewhere else in the United States and moved here with a ton of aspiration to be in the film and television industry. But they're from, if you look at the people in Coyote, for example, you're talking about people like, on the American side, you got people like Drew Powell, who's from Indianapolis. You got George Pilar, who's from Australia. You got Juan Pablo Raba, who's from Colombia. Adriana Paz is from Mexico City. No one's from Hollywood. Very few people are from Hollywood. We're all from parts around the world, and so it's interesting watching people sort of demonize each other and try to paint each other with big brushes, like we all think the same things about every issue and we all look at things the same way. It's ridiculous. It's just not that way, and now people are trying to say that the people are baby eaters, and oh my God, it's what and people believe it. And you're like, what are you talking about? I mean, I met my wife here, which was crazy. When I moved here a million years ago, I never thought that I would meet someone here, because I thought, it's Hollywood. I'm never going to meet anybody that I'd want to marry here, and much to my surprise, I was here 4 months. I met my wife. We've been together ever since. I've raised two beautiful girls together, and we've been all over the world because of this business. So people need to take all this extreme rhetoric with a grain of salt. People are people, man. People are people. And they're just trying to get by in this crazy world and this life and live a good life. Put a roof over their head and food on their table and educate their kids and have a nice life. And I'm just trying to tell stories on film and in television that entertain people and hopefully make them think and feel a little bit. And that's the whole thing that I love about Coyote, is that it's the trifecta. When you can make something that's really, really engrossing and entertaining, but then also makes you think and makes you feel, that's when you're firing on all cylinders, And I'm excited about it.
That's right. And again, CBS All Access's new series, Coyote. Michael, always great to visit with you, my friend. I do want to make sure and let our listeners know where to keep up with everything on social media wise as well.
Thanks. Well, I'm on all the social media. You have to be in this day and age. I'm on Twitter, but it's just Michael Chiklis, @Michael Chiklis on Twitter and on Facebook. But look for the badge that counts, because there's a lot of imposters out there. It's crazy. But my badge that counts on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook.
All right. Well, Michael, always great to visit with you. I truly appreciate your time, and hope you have a great rest of your week, my friend.
Thanks. Me too. A pleasure to talk to you.
Again, this episode brought to you by Smiley's Breezy Vapes at 313 Falcon Road in Altus. You can visit them online at smileysbreezyvapes.com or check them out on Facebook. They do have their doors open, protective plexiglass up. Masks are required to cover your nose and your mouth. If you ever have a question, you can always call or text 580-471-VAPE. That's 580-471-8273. Up next, director Ric Roman Waugh. The movie Greenland is going to be available on DVD, Blu-ray, and video on demand February 9th. First, Rick, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Oh, thank you, Cameron. It's good to be on.
Now, Rick, in the midst of all that we've been going through, I mean, to the process of releasing projects and especially to captive audiences, I mean, a blessing and a curse, I guess, in your case, would you say?
Yeah, I think, 2020 was been a roller coaster ride, and I don't put that in past tense because it feels like we're still living in the 55th week of 2020, as we keep going forward. And, we've all been in this thing, this same situation together. And, it's obviously changed the theatrical corridor and the experience because of safety, and totally understand that. And, I got to commend our studio STX to finding a way of being bullish and getting the movie out to the masses. We had a massive worldwide theatrical run until a lot of the countries started shutting down, and we kept trying to move the needle for us here in the United States to get people to see it in the movie theaters. And then it came just to a point of knowing kind of where we're at and the fact that, we can get it out and start really showing people. It's been a really rewarding experience that it still is, it's still really capturing people's attentions, even within their homes.
And Rick, if folks have not seen the trailers or the previews, they've been hiding under a rock or something. Tell a little bit about the story of Greenland, and I think this is a true hero story that maybe lift people's spirits as well. Yeah,
Greenland's a really interesting movie because it was shot pre-COVID. When we filmed this movie and in fact edited it and had it ready, or getting it in the final throes of being ready in post, we didn't know anything about COVID. And, Greenland's about our worst fears of, when the end of the world could happen. It's this really big disaster movie, but it's told from the inside out versus the outside in, meaning it's told through this point of view of a family that can represent any of us, in our families. And what would we be capable of to find our own safety and keep our family out of harm's way. But what's really brilliant about the script that Chris Farling wrote is it's really a love story. It's about this husband and wife that are a little bit of a metaphor for the world that we live in today and being very divisive. They have lost their footing as a marital couple, and they're doing everything they can to kind of rekindle that and respark this marriage and come back as one with a 7-year-old boy in the house. And they think they have all the time in the world to fix it until they realize that time is taken away by this shiny object called Clark that's supposed to be the closest flyby in history as a comet, until it starts raining havoc on the Earth and entering our atmosphere in chunks. And our family realizes now they are on the run to try to get to these secret bunkers in the movie for shelter that they've been selected for. And so it becomes this big gauntlet movie of big action and big visceral ride, but at the core of it, it's a love story of this family trying to atone and trying to find their own redemption and realizing again why they fell in love with each other in the first place, and that they're better as one than being divided. And again, hopefully that it means something to the world that we live in today.
And Rick, for you, in the midst of all that 2020 was, as far as inspiration, or was it harder to find inspiration or motivation, I guess I should say, as you work writing and coming up with new ideas?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because every movie that I do, whether I'm putting you in prison, with a felon and shot caller, or taking you into the Secret Service with Angel Has Fallen, and now here at Greenland, the end of the world disaster movie, I'm always looking for what is the emotional core, what's the emotional hook of the way in, and also what are the relatable qualities that capture me and make me feel like I could be in this situation. What would I do to survive in prison? What would I do if I were Mike Banning guarding the president and dealing with my own mortality? What would I do if I was John Garrity or Allison Gary in Greenland and, trying to find safety? I think all the genres and the stories that I choose, they've got to really speak to my heart and have an emotional connection to them. And then I think the rest is easy. It's when I don't feel the emotional connection to what I'm reading or what I'm wanting to tackle that I think it gets off the rails really fast for me. So it's always about that emotional thrust of why do I go to the movies? My wife, Tanya, and I were huge movie goers. And it's because we love the form of escapism, but we also like to feel something. It goes back to the Sidley Lumet movies of the 70s, when we were entertained, but they had something to say. They weren't beating us over the head with their own opinions. They were just giving us this controversial subject matter and letting us form our own opinions about it and how we would deal with it. And that's what's called debate.
That's right. And again, the movie Greenland, available on Blu-ray, DVD, and on demand February 9th. And Ric Roman Waugh, I do want to make sure and let our listeners know where they can keep up with everything you got going social media-wise as well, sir.
I'm real easy to find on Instagram. It's kind of my main thrust of letting people know what's coming up next. Gerard Butler and I are going to do another movie called Kandahar, and got a little movie that I can't talk about yet that's going to come up next, and all kinds of exciting things. But you can find me at Ric Roman Waugh on Instagram, and you'll see the check mark there. And tune in and always try to keep people up to speed on what's coming up next and where we're working, and with on-set stuff.
All right. Well, Ric, it has been a privilege to visit with you this morning. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon, my friend.
Hey, appreciate you, Cameron.
Again, thanks to Shelley and our friends over at Smiley's Breezy Vapes for sponsoring today's podcast. If you have a question, give them a call or send a text at 580-471-VAPE. That's 580-471-8273. They've got a great selection of new hardware. Plus, if you have any questions, from the novice to the vaping legends, as I like to say, they can take care of all of it. It's at Smiley's Breezy Vapes. Visit them online, smileysbreezyvapes.com. Our next guest on the show is also a friend of the show from, it's been a year and a half, getting closer to 2 years from his time on The Voice. Jake Hoot on the line with us. And Jake, first off, thanks so much for taking the time, brother.
Oh, thank you for having me, man. It's good to talk to you again.
And how things have changed since we last spoke, right?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, it's, I thought it couldn't change any more than what it did, and it keeps getting bigger and better, and so I'm enjoying the ride.
Now, I think we spoke the day after you got the trophy and the award, and the thoughts of that day, and then what happened in 2020. How excited are you for 2021 and maybe another new beginning, if you will?
I think it's all about perspective in a lot of ways. I know last year, sucked for a lot of people, and I know it was hard. And, I think everybody felt, I feel like everybody felt the effect of it. But I just, I met and started dating or reconnected rather, and started dating my soon to be wife. And, I had a lot of time with my daughter out of school. And, I think as far as the music side goes, I was able to take a step back and kind of get my feet underneath me, because after The Voice, it was all like fast tracked, and I didn't know what was going on, and I was gone all the time. It was a blessing, but I needed a second just to kind of get, an idea of what was going on and who I was in the industry. And so, it was a blessing, and obviously everything changed and all my shows canceled and everything came to a screeching halt, but we found other ways to stay creative and stay busy. And, 2021 is we're very optimistic about it. We're looking at doing a lot of really cool things. And so I can't wait to get on the road again and start playing live shows to people. But, until then, we're just going to keep doing our thing and keep trying to put out music for people to hear at home and in their cars, wherever they're at. So we're very, very blessed.
There you go. Now the new music video and single, and man, you got a little bit of help behind you as well, Jake. What's it like to get Kelly Clarkson signed on to be on the new single with you, and how excited are you about it as well?
Oh man, I mean, I'm so excited. I think it's like one of those things where, people make promises and I'm not just saying I'm saying anywhere in life, people make promises and, oh yeah, I'll do that, or we'll go do this. And for somebody to actually come through and actually do something, it's always special. And so when I was on the show and Kelly was like, hey, I would like to work with you, I would like to do this, I'd like to keep in touch. Obviously I took her at her word. She's a very genuine person, but you have to wonder, she's so busy. She's got all these things going on. So how high of a list of priority am I going to be? And for her to not only record it, but then also do the music video and then also help promote it and give advice and all that kind of stuff. It's just been amazing. And I think it's encouraging to anybody who wants to be on those kind of shows and anybody who sees it to go, hey, there's somebody at her level who's still helping these new artists, get off the ground and get, just kind of get some ground beneath their feet. And so it's been great. And she's been amazing to work with. And I can't thank her enough for all the help she's done.
And in the midst of pandemic, talk about all of the extra challenges of shooting and recording and producing. What was that like during these times?
It was different. Obviously I had recorded in the studio for The Voice. I had recorded in studio a couple years ago. And so when you're having to go in and everybody's spread out across, a huge studio room and everybody's having to wear a mask and you have to wear your mask all the way up into the vocal booth and then take it off just this thing and put it right back on and go back out. And it's frustrating. I can't stand wearing masks, but it's what you have to do nowadays. And so, it was very different. Of course, shooting the music video, we all had to be tested before we went on site and, they had people there that were wiping things down and all this kind of stuff. And so it's crazy. But I think it'll make for cool stories later on to be able to say, hey, we put out this music and we put out this music video and we did this during that time. And so I'm interested to see where it goes from here, but I'm very grateful for everything we've got to do.
Now tell us a little bit about the story of the song when this came to you and why it was this one was the one that you chose this time around.
Yeah, so Dean Sams from Lone Star, we became friends, and he invited me over for a co-write one day, and so I went in, and a girl named Jamie Floyd was there, or a lady, I should say, and we just tossed around ideas, and finally she said, I've got this idea that's crazy, but it's like, I would have loved you, but now I'm going to hate you because of what you did. And so Dean goes, well, what if we use this kind of riff? And he played it on the piano, the riff that you hear at the song. And we all just were like, oh, we're in. And so we wrote the song in like 2 hours. And, I remember saying at the end of that co-write, man, this is a duet song. I wonder if Kelly would sing on it. And, fast forward a couple months after I sent it to her and, then she's like, well, I haven't heard any song, like send it back over to me. And so I sent it and she's like, oh, heck yeah, I'm in. And little did I know everything she was going through in her personal life. And so obviously when she heard these words, she was like, oh, heck yeah, I want to shout it from the mountaintop. And so we recorded it, I recorded in Nashville, she recorded in LA. And then after we got out the finished product, she said, well, why don't we do a music video? And so we flew back out to LA to shoot the music video at the Wiltern. And it's just incredible to see back. And it seems like it's been forever, but we wrote the song last January. So we wrote it a little over a year ago, and to see now what it's become in just a year's time is just incredible.
Now you talked about flying back to LA and what's it like flying back into LA now as opposed to the first time you flew in before The Voice?
I assume it's like, the first time I flew out to LA, I felt like, the Beverly Hillbillies coming to town. I showed up and I was, redneck as all get out and didn't know anybody. And I mean, I like to talk to people and I'm sociable, but when you're stuck in a van and, it's kind of intimidating, cause you're like, oh, all these people are good enough to be on the show. But everybody was so sweet. And, but yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. And, LA is a different world out there. And so then to now go back, for the premiere of season 18 and then go back again for the music video. I won't say that I'm becoming a regular Los Angeles person, but I will say that I kind of gotten an idea of what it's like out there. And there's so many beautiful areas out there. We went to the beach last time and, Malibu and stuff. And so I'm gaining more of an appreciation for it. But it is a different world, but people are so nice out there. Like every time I go out there, people are just incredible. So I'm excited to go back out here before too long again.
And I know that on The Voice, one of the things you talked about is the struggle to kind of find your sound, your voice, yourself. Whenever you get away from that and all the coaching, is it did it take a while to get back to maybe a reality or maybe finding the true Jake again, if you will?
I think so. The Voice, I will say one thing great about The Voice is The Voice encourages everybody, hey, stay true to who you are. They may help pick songs for you. They may help pick your wardrobes, whatever. But, it's like the core of who you are and what your sound is and how you represent yourself on stage. They encourage that. And they go, we don't want to change you. We want to help take who you are and, improve it in essence, and teach you new things. And you learn so much, but they want to stay who you are. And so I think I've always known who I am. But knowing who you are as a performer is a different ball game. And so, it's easy to look out and see these guys dancing around and jumping off things on stage and running and all that stuff. And I'm just not that kind of person. And so I think, I had to get comfortable with, hey, you are more of a, George Strait, like stand in one place, maybe move a little bit, but that's who you are and stay with who you are. And I think since The Voice, the shows that I played after The Voice, I was comfortable with that. And that, that obviously shows in my performances and stuff when you're comfortable with how you're performing. But yeah, I would say that The Voice never really, I never really deviated from who I was. I just had to learn how to sing on that kind of a stage and how to perform and stuff.
Now, what has been what's been maybe the biggest social media challenge for you in 2020? Did you take on TikTok yet? I figure with the George Strait moves, I'm not sure that you did.
Well, we actually talked about that in one of our team meetings the other day, how I needed to start a TikTok. I would say the biggest challenge is, before The Voice and before all that, I used my Instagram as a way of, and Facebook as a way of keeping up with friends and stuff. But I also used it to post like cover videos and stuff, just short ones. And so now it's a full-time job. And while I have a rock star team, there's three of them and everybody wears so many different hats. I kind of told them, hey, I said, one of the hats I'll wear along with it is I'll keep up with my social media and answer people and post new content and do crazy things. But I didn't realize, I think the biggest hurdle is I didn't realize how time consuming and how much work goes into doing that. And I think for people who do that as a full-time job, y'all don't get enough credit because that stuff is, it's head scratching because one day you'll post something and it blows up and it goes viral. The next day you post it and you get like 2 likes and it's like, what in the world is going on? But definitely we may be tackling TikTok here in the next month or so. So keep an eye out for that.
There you go. Well, Jake, if folks want more information, not only about the single, about the video, about upcoming releases and dates as those become available, where's the best place to keep up with all that?
Yeah, definitely for dates and stuff and merchandise. Everything is on my website, jakehoot.com. Super simple. And of course, if you want to keep up with my day-to-day stuff all the crazy things that I do, whether it's cooking videos or just doing some dance video or whatever I do, Jake Hoot Music on Instagram or Jake Hoot on Facebook. And I think it's Jake Hoot Music on Twitter too. And like I said, keep an eye out on TikTok. I'll probably be on there before too long as well.
And there you go. Well, Jake, been great to reconnect with you, my friend. I appreciate you taking some time out. Looking forward to some more new music from you. And hopefully we'll catch up again real soon, brother.
Heck yeah. Thank you so much, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks again for joining me for this 19th episode of Good Questions with Cameron Dole, Season 2. If you ever have a comment, question, or anything else you'd like to know, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at GQ with Cam. If you'd like to help out in the funding for this podcast, feel free to click the support tab and follow the instructions. If you have a special guest idea, email me, gqwithcam@gmail.com. Again, thanks to our good friend Brandon Allen for pinning the music and playing it for us. We're going to let him play us out. Hope you have a great weekend. Join me back here next week for episode 20.